Today I want to talk more about the idea of commitment. So if you're following along with the process, by now you've been developing your leader story, and there's two stories we'll get into. One is called your story in words. That's the primary exercise. But then from there is your story in numbers. And the story in numbers is really the story about how you're going to actually make money following your dream. So it's important, but we're going to cover that later because the challenges that a lot of people have at this point is even taking the time to do the work, to get prepared, to receive money. And then there's, depending on your situation, there can also be some labor involved in making your nut, your monthly minimum financial requirements for your personal life and the nominal requirements to run your business. So the point is, what is your calendar going to look like when you're actually taking action? And as I've said before, and I'll say again, there's no such thing as free time. Like, we're all busy 24 hours a day. So if you want to create something new, the first part is actually creating space for that thing. And your story in words is a very powerful space creator, because really the genesis of this kind of space is our own inner thoughts and feelings. And when those thoughts and feelings congeal, coalesce into the desire to take action, and you may have that desire to take action, but you're too busy. So how do we get unbusy? What's going to be the process of carving out that kind of space? And it takes some observation. Some people recommend just actually tracking what you do all day for a while and really get present to what you're doing with your time. I'll be introducing some other ideas about getting very present about what you do with your money. And because conserving cash is also so essential for any kind of enterprise, especially at the beginning. But even in the future, you'll see why. Some of our most famous billionaires are also some of the biggest cheapskates, because they know that everything that they can reinvest generates more money. But there's a balance, right? We don't necessarily want to live like paupers in only to have money. And the same with time. Everyone is familiar with the idea of sacrifice. And I don't really want you to do that, because I want to build a world where we're doing the right thing and it doesn't feel like sacrifice. It doesn't feel like, well, I'm doing this only because it's a duty. I want people to be living from their highest self and their highest beauty. Their highest beauty instead of their highest duty. Because what does duty lead to? It leads to war. We always talk about our duty, but nobody really questions, well, wait a minute. How do we get to this idea where war is okay in the first place? And that comes straight from the notion of sacrifice and duty. That's my opinion. And does that mean that we don't, prioritize our children or perhaps give up some things that we thought we might have done? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. And in fact, if you really look at your stream of thoughts carefully, you'll see that you've got a constant flow of ideas of what you could do or what you might do. And one of my students, she lived in Brooklyn, and she was kind of trying to figure out her course of life in the future. And so we started listing all the things that she would love to see more of, or the problems that she would like to see fixed. And she said, one of the things she'd really love to see is that the garbage on the streets of Brooklyn, that she would like that to go away. But as we processed and went through, it really didn't meet the level of commitment. So that idea was rattling around in her skull, in her mind. But when she really looked at it closely, she realized, what? I'm not going to be the one to do that. I'm just not going to be that person. I'm going to commit to what she was committed to, which was her business. And the business had a really cool theme relating to women and bicycles. And that was a major decision, because when we drop those kind of rattling around ideas of what we maybe would do if we had infinite time, then suddenly we get more energy and clarity for the thing that really, really matters. And if you're on this video, you want to really look and see what really, really matters and what you're willing to, when I say willing, really where's that resonance with you that's so strong that you find yourself dropping lower value activities out of your day, whether you keep a calendar or not. And we'll look at that next. And one of the great things about this process is that if you look at some of the highly successful people in the world, they are able to manage multiple commitments. So the first thing is to get the knack of experiencing commitment as a loving and peaceful activity as opposed to something that you gotta do, sacrifice or forcing yourself to do it. That's, when I talk about commitment, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something much more powerful and so powerfully aligned with who you are that the action comes naturally. And when you can generate that for yourself, it also becomes much easier to generate that state of commitment for people who might wish to support you financially. So that's the theme of this video, and I'll be making some more on this topic to help you get from wherever you are to a greater, not only sense of commitment, but a greater ability to implement and take action on your commitments.